Okay, welcome to lesson 3.3. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to multiply decimals by a whole number. So before we can multiply decimals, let's go back and review just multiplication of whole numbers by whole numbers. And I've chosen to start with 146 times 3. So in this case, when we do multiplication, you're going to be taking the numbers in the top, and each one of these individual digits will be multiplied by the 3. So we're going to start out with 3 times 6, then 3 times 4, then 3 times 1, and then as we carry, as 3 times 6 is 18, we're going to be putting the 8 down here and putting the 1 up there, so we call that carrying. So our first step to do this is to multiply 3 by 6, and that gives us 18. So there's the 1, it goes up top, and the 8 goes down below, and you have 18. Now the second step is to go 3 times 4. Now I've got 3 times 4, which is 12, but there's also this other 1 here, which is in the tens place. So that gives me a total of 13. So I write down 3 down below and the 1 up top. Now 3 times 1 is 4, but I got to add the 1 here. So that gives me a total of, 3 times 1 is 3, plus this 1 is 4. All right, so there's our number. So 3 times 146 is 438. So now let's move on to a little more difficult. This is multiplying a 3-digit number, 274, times 38. Now in this case, what's going to happen is we're going to multiply 8 times 4, and then we're going to multiply 8 times 7, then 8 times 2, and then we're going to move on to the second row down here where we're going to multiply everything by 30. And we're going to be doing the 4, the 7, and the 2, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then the last step is we're going to take and we're going to add this and this together to get the final answer. So my first step is I'm going to multiply 274 by 8, and I should get 2,192. So let's take a look. 8 times 4 is 32. So I put down the 2, and I'm going to carry the 3. 8 times 7 is 56. 56 and 3 is 59. So I'm going to put down the 9, and I'm going to carry the 5. 8 times 2 is 16, and 5 is 21. So there I have 2,192, which is the result of multiplying 274 by 8. Now in this line down here, the second line, I'm going to multiply everything by 30. Now, I know that when you multiply, every multiple of 10 ends in a 0. So if I put down a 0 here, I can bypass having to multiply by 30, and I can multiply simply by 3, and that makes my numbers a little bit easier. So 3 times 4 is 12. I'm going to put the 2 down. I'm going to carry the 1. 3 times 7 is 21, and this one here gives me 22, so I'm going to put down the 2, and I'm going to carry the 2. And 3 times 2 is 6, plus this 2 here gives me a total of 8. So I should have multiplied 274 by 3, and that gives me 822, plus the 0 from being in the 30, the digit being 30 here, that would give me 8,220. Now the last thing I've got to do is I've got to add 2,192 to 8,220. So 2 plus 0 is 2. 9 plus 2 is 11, so you put down the 1, carry the 1, whoops, carry the 1. And then 1 plus 2 is 3, plus this one here is a 4. And then 2 plus 8 gives us 10. So I end up getting a sum of 10,412. Okay, let's move on to a word problem. The movie Transformers 2 cost $27.89 at the Superstore in Camrose. Bob wants all his friends to have a copy, so he purchased 8 of them. How much did Bob spend on the DVDs? Well, first off, before we start, let's get a rough idea of what we're going to be doing here. I need to know how much my answer, my product, should be, so that I'm going to do an estimate to find out. Now I know I have $27.89, and I have to multiply that by 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take $27.89 and I'm going to round it off to 30. Now 3 times 8 is 24, plus this 0 gives me $240. So I know Bob should spend around $240. The problem up here is, should it be above 240 or below 240? Well, if you look here, I have rounded 27 up to a 30. That means that my number is going to be slightly high. So I have what's called an overestimate. And I had a typo here, so I just corrected it. I have an overestimate because we rounded up. So let's do the answer here without the calculator. Okay? You can see that I've got some extra stuff from before. Get rid of that stuff. Hopefully I won't erase anything. Okay, here we go. So now I'm going to multiply 8 times 2789, and I'm going to zoom in to get a good, clear, the largest picture possible. Okay, so 8 times 9 That's 72. Put down the 2, carry the 7. 8 times 8 is 64. 64 and 7 gives me 71. Now, 8 times 7 is 56, and 7 gives me 63, so there's your 63. And 8 times 2 is 16, plus 6 is 22. So 8 times 2,789 is 22,312. Now, if I did this correctly, I should be able to take and add all of these up and get the same number, because we know that multiplication is just a way to replace addition. And I call it rapid addition. Instead of adding 8 of these up, I can do the multiplication. This is faster. It also, if you know your times tables, there's less chance of error. But you can do the same thing by getting 2789 and adding it to itself 8 times. So if I take this 9 and I add up all of these 9s, I'm going to get 72. I put the 7 up here, and I get the 2 down below. When I add all of these up, I'm going to need 64 plus the 7. That gives me the same number we have, 7 on the top and a 1 on the bottom. If you notice, I have a 7 on the top and a 1 on the bottom over here. So there's a direct parallel between the two of them. 7 times 8 is 56, right? And I had the 7 to add on, so that's 63. So I'm going to carry the 6 and put down the 3. Notice the 6 and the 3 over here parallels it. And of course, now 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, and 6 is 22. So I get the same number. Now, were there other strategies we could use? Well, there are other ways of multiplying. We don't teach them because it tends to be, if you teach too many different ways, people get confused. But you can multiply by going from right to left, left to right. You can do it in tables. You can do it in columns. You can do it in base 10 blocks. There's so many different ways that you could do this, right? We only teach this method here, which is the right to left method with carrying, because it makes it easier for everybody. Because in where we are, this is the easiest way to transfer from school to school. So if you move, most people are teaching it this way. All right, which one was the easiest? I find multiplication easiest, but you may find that addition works for you. But there's a big drawback to addition. This is 2789 times 8. But what happens if it's 2789 times 81? Are you really going to put 2,789 and 81 times and then try to add them up? I think if you start doing something like that, you're going to find yourself making a lot of errors. So once you get to big numbers, you almost always have to go back to this method. All right. Why did we estimate first? Well, we estimated first because it tells us whether our answer is correct or not. All right, and we haven't placed a decimal yet. We're going to get that in a second. But I know that I should have an answer around $240. So now let's place the decimal in proper location. I have 3 places I can put the decimal. I can put it between the here and here and have 2.2312. I can put it here and have 22.312. I can put it here and have 223, and here I can have 2,000. Now remember, I have to get close to 240, right? Well, putting the decimal in here, the only place I can put it is right there, because 223 is the closest way to get to 240. All right, if I put it here, it'll be 22. That's a long ways from 240. And if I put it here, now I've got 2,000, which is also a long ways. Same thing happens over here. The decimal goes right there. So by having the decimal to work with, I can place the value of, place the decimal. Having the estimate helps me place the decimal correctly. All right, so let's take a look at our next problem. All right, our first thing we're going to do next is I'm going to get you to try to put some decimals in proper location by using rounding. So I'll do the first one for you, and then you can do the next 2. In order to do this, what I need to do is take the 12.46 times 3. I know the digits that I get are going to be a 3738. Where do I place the decimal? To do that, you take the round off 12.46 to a compatible number, and you multiply that by 3. So I'm going to choose 12 times 3, which tells me I need to be near 36. So I've got to place the decimal in this number someplace so that I get a number closest to 36, and that's going to be 37. All right, so the decimal's got to go between the 7 and the 3. So my final answer should be 37 and 38/100ths. So what I'd like you to do now is pause the recording and I'd like you to do these 2. All right, let's take a look. I took 187, rounded to 200. 200 times 7 means I should be around 1,400. Now the best way to get 1,400 will be to place the decimal right about there, because that gives me 1,300. So that means that my decimal, my final product should be 1,310 and 617 thousandths. Okay, let's take a look at the next one. I took 79, rounded it to 80. 8 times 6 is 48 with a 0 added on, so I get 480. So that means my number's got to be very close to 480. Well, that means the decimal's got to go right there, because that's the closest one to 480, 474. So that means my answer is 474 and 918 thousandths. Okay, when we get to do the stuff in the assignment, this is the way we're going to do it. We're going to start with working with an estimation first, and then once we have our estimation done, then we're going to move on to doing the actual calculation, and then we're going to do the actual placement of the decimal at the end. So let's take a look. I'm going to zoom in again so it makes it a little bit easier for myself to do the clicking. All right, my estimation. Well, 2.49, I'm going to change this to 2.5 because I know that 25 times 4 is 100, so 2.5 times 4 is 10. Now, if you chose a 3 times 4, you'd have 12, and if you rounded down to a 2 times 4, you'd have an 8. And you'll find that 12, 10, and 8 doesn't make a difference when we start putting our decimal in place. So let's move over now and take a look at our actual calculation. We know that 4 times 9 is 36, so I'm going to put my 6 down here and my 30 up there. 4 times 4 is 16, and 3 more is 17, 18, 19, so I'm going to put down the 9 and carry the 1. There's my 19. 4 times 2 is 8, and 1 is 9. So I've got 9, 9, 6 as my product of 249 times 4. So now I need to remember where my estimation was. I have to have a number close to 10. Well, when I'm doing my numbers here, if I put it here, that's going to be 9. If I put it here, it's 99. If I put it there, it's going to be 0.9. So the only place to put it is right there. That means that my decimal, when I place it, is going to be between the two 9s, and that's going to give me 9 and 96 hundredths, or 9.96. All right, let's move to the second example here. This time I'd like you to try it, so pause the recording, and I'd like you to try this equation. This multiplication. All right, so let's start out with our estimation. I have 5.258 times 7, so I'm going to round this off to 5, and I'm going to multiply that by the 7. Well, 5 times 7 gives me 35. So I know that my final calculation has to be around 35. So now moving over to our actual calculation. 7 times 8 is 56, so I'm going to put down the 6, and I'm going to carry the 5. 7 times 5 is 35. 35 and 5 is 40, so I'm going to put down the 0, and I'm going to carry the 4. 7 times 2 is 14. 14 and 4 is 18, so I'm going to put down the 8, and I'm going to carry the 1. And 7 times 5 is 35, and 1 is 36. So my final answer for 5,258 times 7 is 36,806. Now I have to place the decimal. Now we know that our answer's got to be around 35, so that means that I've got to put the decimal right there to give me 36.806. Okay? All right, let's have you try the next one. Okay, so pause the recording and give this one a try. All right, well, let's take a look at our estimation. My 23.981 times 3, I'm going to change that to 25 times 3, and 25 times 3 is 75. Okay, now let's do our calculation. 3 times 1 is 3, there's no carrying. 3 times 8 is 24, so put down the 4, carry the 2. 3 times 9 is 27, and 2 is 29, so put down the 9, carry the 2. 3 times 3 is 9, and 2 is 11, put down the 1, and carry the 1. And 3 times 2 is 6, and 1 is 7. So my final answer has got to be around 75, so I know my decimal is going to have to go between the 1 and the 9 here. So my final answer is going to be 71 and 943 thousandths. All right, let's take a look at another word problem. Matt is going skiing, and he's wondering how many runs down the mountain he can do. His friend Bob told him that the average time for one run down the mountain is 12 minutes 12.58 minutes. Matt wants to do 25 runs. So he calculates he has about 4 hours for the skiing. So the question is, can he complete all the runs in his 4 hours? Well, since this is in 12.58 minutes, it makes it easier for us to think of everything in minutes. So I'm going to convert my 4 hours into minutes. Now we know that an hour has 60 minutes in it, so 4 times 60 means that Matt's got about 240 minutes to complete his runs. So now we need to find out how long it will take for 25 runs. So we know that there's 12.58 per run, and he wants to do 25. So I'm going to have to take and do some math here on my estimate. I'm going to keep the 25, and I'm going to multiply it by 10. So I'm going to have here 250. So I'm estimating about 250 minutes it's going to take him to do his runs. So we'll see what happens here. All right, so I'm going to zoom in. And here we go. All right, so do our multiplication. 5 times 8 is 40. Put down the 0. Carry the 4. 5 times 5 is 25, and 4 is 29. So put down the 9. Oops, and carry the 2. 5 times 2 is 10, and 2 is 12. So put down the 2, and carry the 1. So that gives you 5 times 1 is 5, and 1 is 6. All right, now we're going to multiply by 2. So put down the 0. This is a little off. 2 times, sorry, because this is 20, so put down the 0. 2 times 8 is 16. Put down the 6, carry the 1. 2 times 5 is 10, and 1 is 11, so put down the 1 and carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 is 5. And 2 times 1 is 2. Now you have to add all this up. I'm just going to uncover the answer. I'm assuming at this point you know how to actually add. All right, so there's our answer, 31450, 31,450, but we have to place our decimal in place. So we know that our decimal should be around 250. So the way to get this closest to 250 is to put the number right there, sorry, the decimal right there. So we know that he's going to need 314 minutes, 0.5, to make all 25 runs. So the question is, will Matt be able to finish? The answer to that is no, he won't. Right? And the reason is that he needs 314.5 minutes, but he only has 240 minutes in his 4 hours of the afternoon. All right? So that takes care of that one. Let's go on to another one here. Bob wants to buy a dirt bike from a friend for $200. Bob makes $62.79 each week on his part-time job. If Bob worked for 4 weeks, will he have enough money to purchase the bike? How much more will he need, or how much extra will he have? So please pause the recording and find the answer to this question. All right, well, we're going to do some rounding. We change this to 60 times 4. That gives me 240. Now, the multiplication, 4 times 9 is 36. Put down the 6, carry the 3. And I'm going to assume that by now you can do the multiplication, so your answer should be 25116. Now, to place the decimal, we know we have to be around 240, which means my decimal's got to be between the two ones. So I should have $251.16. So, will Bob have enough money? The answer to that question is, he needs 200 bucks, and he has 251. So will he have enough money? Yes, he will. Now, how much extra will he have? We have to take 251.16 and subtract 200 from it. He's going to have $51.16 extra. So Bob will have $51.16 extra after he purchases his bike. So if you have any questions, watch the video again. And if not, you come in and get some help, and we will see you in our next lesson.